the matchup with the Tennessee Titans was exactly the matchup needed for Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings to get back in rhythm, figure things out, and get ready for the final challenging stretch of the season, which includes a lot of divisional games, 2 Bears games, Packers game, Lions game. Cardinals are no joke. The Atlanta Falcons are the most inconsistent team in the NFL, but when they're good, they're good. And when they're bad, they get blown out by the Broncos 34-6. So this game against the Titans was much needed for the trajectory for the final 7 games of the season, particularly for Sam Darnold. The longest yard with Adam Sandler, Paul Crewe and the boys. There was a scene from that movie that particularly stood out to me that reminded me of the game that Sam Darnold had against the Tennessee Titans. The warden brings in Adam Sandler, and they're having a conversation, and he's trying to wine and dine him, like, hey, will you play for our team, or will you coach our team? The warden did a lot of work to pull some strings, get Paul Crewe at his prison, and they're walking around the football field. They're having a discussion, and he asks Paul Crewe, he said, what can we do to get better? Because apparently the warden's playing victim here. The warden's playing victim, and Paul, his team, was scheduled against a really good football team to open up the season, and he's like, give us some pointers. How can we handle this? How can we respond? How can we be ready to play this football game? And Paul Crewe says, basically, you need an easy game.
Relatively simple. You need a tune-up game.
Tune-up game?
Yeah, in college we start every season against Appalachian State or some slack Division II team. Kick the living shit out of them. Get their confidence up.
Paul Crewe said they needed a tune-up game. And that's exactly what the Tennessee Titans was for Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings offense. It should have been the Jacksonville Jaguars game. It should have been 2 tune-up games in a row. But Darnold threw 3 picks in the red zone. And, to bounce back from a terrible performance like that can't be easy. But what makes it a lot easier is a matchup versus the Tennessee Titans. And Kevin O'Connell gave one of the game balls to Sam Darnold following the Titans matchup, probably because of his response to his 3-pick, 0-touchdown game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This could not have worked out any better for the Minnesota Vikings this year. Let me take a look at Sam Darnold's game logs together. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, I'll do my best to describe it. The Giants, San Fran, Houston, Green Bay, Jets. Darnold was sensational in all of those games except for the Jets. Tough part of the schedule, beat San Fran, beat Houston, beat Green Bay. Looking not like an MVP, putting up MVP numbers. And then you lose to the Lions by 2 points. You lose to the Rams by 10 points. And we start to see a slow regression from Sam Darnold at that point. But you're playing 2 of the best offensive minds in football. Those losses are not hideous. And then the easy part of the schedule comes. And this is actually when Sam Darnold plays his worst football of the year. Sure, he went 28 for 34 against the Colts, 290 yards, but 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's not very good. Took 4 sacks. That's not very good. Jacksonville, 24 for 38, 241 yards, 63% completion percentage, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks, took a sack. It's not very good. The fortunate part for the Minnesota Vikings this season is that Sam Darnold has played his worst football against the worst teams, which the Minnesota Vikings were able to win anyways, despite Sam Darnold not playing up to the par that we saw in the first 4 weeks of the year. And then against the Tennessee Titans, the get-right game, the tune-up game, 20 for 32, 246 yards, 62% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, along with 47, took 2 sacks, passer rating of 107, a QBR of 0.5. And he was elusive. He was a quick decision maker. He threw dump down passes when he needed to. He took the easy 3-yard pass, let the guy run for a few yards to make it a 2nd and 3 versus a, 2nd and 15 if you hold on to the ball too long and take a sack. So what we saw from Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings offense was essentially a tune-up against the Tennessee Titans, because you take a look at what is coming for the Minnesota Vikings, and I talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's just really break it down. You got the Bears Sunday at noon. The following week, you've got the Arizona Cardinals at home. It's a winnable game, but the Arizona Cardinals are playing good. It's not an easy win. Then you got a home versus the Atlanta Falcons. Then you got a home versus the Chicago Bears. On the road at Seattle versus Green Bay at Detroit. So you got 7 games left of the season. And I would say that none of these games, you look at the schedule, and none of these games are like a Jacksonville or a Tennessee where that's a win. That's a win. Colts, that's a win. All of these games could be close one-score ball games. And to have the tune-up like Sam Darnold did against the Tennessee Titans is essential for the Vikings offense to be successful down the stretch in the final 7 games of the year. So the scheduling could not have favored the Minnesota Vikings any more than it did, and it's awesome. It worked out great for Sam Darnold, because the last thing that you want for the Minnesota Vikings, for Sam Darnold, is Darnold throwing 0 touchdowns, 3 picks. Oh, next week you got to travel to Chicago and play that defense that is pretty good, that features a lot of talented guys. The last thing you would want, Darnold, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks. Now go beat the Green Bay Packers at home or the Detroit Lions on the road. This worked out tremendously in the Minnesota Vikings' favor. And the reason why we can be hopeful or confident is because Sam Darnold got a tune-up game. Got a tune-up game against the bottom feeders in the NFL, which is huge. The Jaguars game should have been a blowout. It wasn't, because Darnold didn't execute. But he responded well, made the correct throws, made the right decisions against the Tennessee Titans. And now I think we can anticipate Sam Darnold not to play to the level he did in the first 4 weeks of the year, but definitely not to the level that he played in against the Jacksonville Jaguars either, because of the tune-up game. Thanks for making this podcast part of your day.